All right, well, I'll hand you the mic and introduce yourself. Tell us what film you did, and just talk a little bit about it, the inspiration behind it.
My name is Voltaire, and I made the first short that played called Debbie or Genesis. It's a little stop-motion piece narrated by Danny Elfman. And I basically made a bunch of the MTV station IDs in the 80s and Sci-Fi Channel station IDs in the 90s, and gotten back to making films just for fun. And my films are sort of a lot like those station IDs. They're short, they're weird, they're narrated by singers, and they have zero commercial value.
I'm Alex Horwitz. I did Alice Jacobs is Dead, and I'm sorry I didn't bring Adrian Barbeau. I made the film in LA shot about 2 summers ago, and premiered at Comic-Con last year. And what else can I tell you? I know the one thing I need to tell you about this movie is that Adrian Barbeau is a vegetarian. That is a real statement. The makeup department made these great sort of rubber steaks, but they wouldn't have looked. We couldn't have shot them as closely as we shot that one. And I said, well, how about you just put it to your mouth and we'll cut? And she said, well, how about I do a little something with the steak? So I said, you cut, I won't. And that's what you did. We didn't use the fake steaks. So she's a trooper. I owe her. And John Lazar, you may recognize as Z-Man Barzell from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And John's fan is here. And that's it. So yeah, that's the movie.
David Bitton. I did Parking Space. I guess when I made it, I came up with the idea about 10 years ago, and I don't know what, I wasn't even really driving that much back then, but I eventually finally got the chance to make it, and so after having made it, I realized driving around in New York that it's a lot more relevant than I knew when I actually made it. It's pretty, parking situation is pretty awful here. But yeah, that's, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm really glad that it played here, and the audience reaction was awesome. And the festival seems cool, and Coney Island seems awesome, and that's it, yeah.
The director of The Devil's Toy. Probably the hardest part of making the film was actually getting the Nazi flags. Because I had to kind of seek them out. Nobody really sells Nazi flags. And eventually I found an outpost in Montana. Where the guy only goes to the post office once a week and sends things out. So that's probably the hardest one. I don't know what else to say. I'll probably answer more questions if anybody has some.
Hey, I'm Juan so I did Flowers for Norma. There's nothing really to tell. We shot it in November in Brooklyn Heights and Park Slope, basically in the historical districts there. So it was pretty easy to really keep the period element. And a lot of the actors were friends of mine or friends of friends, so it came together really fast. Vinny, it was like 3 weeks or something like that from the time we started the project to the time we wrapped. So it was a smooth process, and we were doing it. I really don't know what else to say. Thanks. Any questions from the audience? Come on now. You saw these films, right? I wish the guy from Tub was here because I have questions for him. In your cases, can you talk about how you got Danny Elfman to do your flick and how you got Adrian Barbeau involved in yours?
I'm glad you asked because it's really, really relevant. The way that, well, first of all, this is a series of shorts and all of them are narrated by singers. The other 3 were narrated by Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance, Debbie Harry of Blondie, and Richard Butler of the Psychedelic Furs. But every single time I finish one of these films, like the really hard part is finding the narrator. And in this particular case, Carolyn Thompson, who wrote Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Before Christmas, etc., etc. She has a website called smallandcreepyfilms.com, and she was a judge at a film festival and had seen a couple of my other shorts. And so she asked if they could host my shorts on their website. And I'm such a huge fan of hers that I said absolutely. And we were meeting in LA last January, and she said, "How's your next short coming?" And I said, well, it's done, but I can't seem to find Tom Waits. And I'm having a really hard time getting a narrator. And she said, "How about Danny Elfman?" I was like, "Great! So show your films at shorts. Show your shorts at film festivals." That's what I mean, because or show your shorts. You know, just take off your pants and show everyone your shorts. No, but seriously, you really do meet people, and sometimes you make connections and friendships that last for a long time that make it easier for you to make films later on.
I wrote the film because I wanted to work with John Lazar. I was a fan of his from Beyond LA Dolls and from Deathstalker 2. Anyone? Yeah. Yes. John's got a real fan right there. And I just looked him up in LA and asked him out for lunch, and that was it. We struck up a friendship. I wrote with Adrienne Barbeau in mind, thought, wouldn't it be a great if? And I wish I had some amazing dramatic story, but I wrote her a letter through her agent. They asked to, lucky for me, she has a policy of reading every script she's offered, whether she does it or not. And she liked it, and that was that. And I'm incredibly fortunate she did. Yeah, I think I changed the title of the film to sort of feature her more. I think she's the heart and soul of it, so I was just lucky to get her.
Woo!
The casting, the odd man sitting on the side of the street. I said I came up with the idea 10 years ago, but I actually shot part of it. I shot that opening scene, but just the half with the odd guy on the street because I didn't have an actor for the other guy. And it's the same guy. It's just some guy I worked with at a movie theater who liked dressing up weird, and he had his own leather jacket and like piercings and stuff. And he had these cool dreadlocks back then too, but he lost his hair like immediately after we shot. And 10 years later, I came back to him and I was like, "Do you want to do that again?" And he hated me at the time for making him sit on the street corner for like 2 hours. 2 hours? Yeah, it was like 2 hours straight to do that time lapse. And his ass was hurting and everything. And he agreed to do it again. And so that's him. And the lead was just boring casting. And the motorcyclist is actually a comic book artist. I know a friend of mine named Carl Kerschel who draws for DC and has his own webcomic, and he's also a friend of mine. He just knew how to ride a motorcycle, so he was in. He's amazing. He's a guy who I worked with a few times just on projects. We weren't working, like I wasn't his director, but we worked together and we really hit it off as people, and he's amazing. His name is Pavel Kraszewski. He just finished his training at AFI, and I think he's probably now even better than he was when he shot this film, which was before that. And he's just amazing. He has an amazing sensibility, and if you ever need his contact information, I'd be happy to give it to you.
What kind of camera do you guys use?
I use an Atom XTR Super 16, and it was cut on a Steam Deck. It was cut old style on a film.
I actually have one of the cast members in the audience who actually ran out during Tug. Oh, you ran out too? Yes. His name is Liam. He's a young boy who ended up opening the box. As you can tell, I don't like kids.
He has a beautiful intestine.
Actually, he kept them. They're in his room, hanging on the wall. But casting-wise, I worked with all these actors before on other shorts, and I liked their kind of retro look. They had a retro look to their faces that seemed like it was right out of Life magazine. And basically, that's it for casting. I don't know what else to say.
What'd you shoot it on?
Actually, it does look a lot better than what was up there because I gave a mini DV tape instead of a DV tape. But it was shot on a Panasonic DVC 3700. It's like one of their best cameras, one of the Barrett cams. And that's basically what it's shot.
I have a big hard-on for character actors because I always feel like character actors are like the easiest to direct because I don't know, they always seem like they're really much more in touch with everything to me, and there's no vanity involved for so many of them. So Chris Mulkey's been in like over 100 movies, and he was in a short that I actually produced for a friend of mine from LA, and he and I became really good friends a few years ago because of that. And then William B. Davis, who's looking a little older now, but he was one of the old guys on The Stoop. He's the cigarette smoking man. He was his manager, is the friend of one of my producers, and that's how we met him. And then Tony Plana from Ugly Betty, who actually, by the way, if you know, he's the Cuban guy that was next to the smoking man. He was in Three Amigos, which to me was the most exciting thing. He was the second in command, you know, El Guapo. He was no. Whatever. The other guy that was always saying, "Would it be that you are turning 40 and dating her?" Hefe, thank you very much. Anyway, for me that was really exciting for some reason. And then everybody else is just local SAG like talent from like you said, boring casting and stuff. So, but yeah, that's it.
Any questions? Right.
Are you gonna make any movies that has commercial values?
Am I gonna make any films?
Yeah, and why you make movies?
And why what?
Why you make them?
Okay, am I going to make any films that have commercial value? The answer is no. Yeah, I wrote a feature film script, and it's being shopped around, and you know, it's a tough game. There's people who are interested, and it's funny, and it's a horror comedy, and it's mostly live action with some stop motion monsters because I have to have some stop motion monsters involved. But this series, I'm just really content with it being what it is. Just I make some models, and then I lock myself up in a room for a couple of weeks and animate them. And it is. I guess they're experimental. It just, at 4 in the morning after being awake for 2 nights is when they start getting really weird. And when I have ideas I don't normally have. And so I'm kind of content with them being what they are. And there's already another one in the works. It's produced by Glass Eye Pix, who's a horror production company. They had a film here at 5 called Satan Hates You. And it's an opener for their upcoming radio show called Tales from Beyond the Pale. And then I will keep shooting and make it weirder and turn it into another one of my films. And then desperately look for a singer of note to narrate.
Do any of you have full-length versions in mind of the shorts you shot today? You showed us today?
I personally do not, because if I did, it would take me 10 years to shoot it.
I've started writing a version. I've got like 25 pages. I just don't want to. It was conceived as a short, and I don't want to just jam it in there just to have something that I can offer and be saleable. So I need to figure out how to expand without stretching too thin. I think I have that. I think I have that idea. There'd be some flashbacks to the zombie war before it all went down, but I'm slowly working on it. Yes.
I don't know how long you can live for a parking space, but 20 minutes is about my limit. I have another movie that I conceived of as a short that could work as a feature as well, but not this one.
Actually, The Devil's Toy was based on a feature-length outline that was made, and then we had a short script written for it. The feature script is completed, and it's in the movie you would find out what's in the box, basically.
not to steal Liam's thunder, but I forgot to mention that the woman who played the old woman with the shopping cart, Lucy Sorluco, is here in the audience too. Sorry, you're awesome too. And Vinny, of course, who was the old guy with the wedding ring in the back as well. So I'm actually not a huge fan of Stephen King, and I know it's probably sacrilegious to say. I'm a fan of Stephen King's dramatic stuff, like The Body, which became Stand By Me, Shawshank Redemption, which was Rita Hayworth, The Green Mile. You know, the things that aren't really horror movies that he's written are the things that I actually prefer. I have a hard on for period, epic, period pieces. So, and I really consider it a romantic thriller, not a horror movie. But it's a short story that really stuck with me, you know, and so that's why I made it. And because of that film and one other film I did is what got me an agent. And you know, we all know how tough it is to go from shorts to features. You know, I'm starting to get work because of it. And then whether I'll do a Stephen King thing, maybe a dramatic thing, that'd be probably really interesting. That's it.
Any other questions? No? All right, well, let's give one more round. Round of applause, please, guys. Thank you.